Hey everybody, Seven here. And I'm here with a new update that just dropped. It's 1.500, and there's a lot to talk about. I'm throwing snowballs at a townsfolk. Okay, so for the first thing, I'm over here at my animal houses because there is now, with this current update, a correction on my previous correction, where if you saw my How to Take Care of Animals video, you'll notice that I left in the comments that one of the official bug testers had corrected me that if there is a worker but there is no food, that the animals would still continue to breed at their 15% per male occupant. That's no longer the case. If they do not have full feedstocks, they will not breed any longer. They will still retain their reduced output capacity. So as long as there is a worker there, but there is no food in the trough, they will still have, I believe it's 25% of their normal productivity, but they won't reach 100% until they actually are properly fed. But they will no longer breed. All right, now onto some of the new stuff. As you can hear, there's a bunch of new coughing and sneezing animations and sounds. There's also more sounds for the baby sneeze and the cooing and interactions. There's also a couple of neat new sounds for some of the eating actions. So you see that the lettuce sounds a lot more leafy and crunchy. And the carrot sounds a bit more crunchy as well. We're going to save one of those carrots because there is a very, very cool new addition. So one of the new additions that they made for the winter time is you can now make snowmen and snowballs. So you can actually make the decorations that you sometimes see around town. So for just 6 sticks, 4 stones, and a carrot, we can plug down a snowman. I love it. For the snowballs, it doesn't take anything. It's just in handcrafting, and it literally just takes time. On top of this, they've also added animations for bumping into people, so they now react to when you shove into them. You charge into people, and they actually react and move around a little bit. And they also react to when you throw snowballs at them. And these just operate the way that throwing rocks would, or a bow and arrow or something like that. This brings us to our next update, the one that probably everybody's really here for. This is a brand new building. The barn has gotten split in two. So while there is still the pre-existing barn, it looks exactly the same. The structure, the material requirements, everything like that is still the same. However, its function is simply the bench, the threshing, the flour making, manure, etc. All that stuff that was all what the typical barn worker used to do is all now done just exclusively in the barn. That also will change the mechanics of how that particular farmer works, and we'll get into that in a second. But this here is the farm shed. So when you assign someone here, you don't need to choose, are they going to be a farmer or are they going to be a barn worker? They are automatically going to be a farmer. You can also see that this came with a new icon up in the corner. So this is also going to be updating my what does this icon mean video, because this icon is now brand new for the 1.5 version. So we can go here to the farm shed. We see that there's an issue with this farm shed, which is now exclusively farmers. They only fertilize, sow, reap, etc. They don't do any barn work activities. So you see we have an issue with this person, and there's no resources for fertilizer. My resource situation on this playthrough is going to be a little bit wonky because this location was the previous location of where my barn was, and I had all of my farm workers and barn workers were all harvesting these fields and also doing the threshing, the manure production, etc. So in the process of destroying the barn, installing a farmhouse, and then I moved my barn further up the road, my resources were not being produced properly, so it'll take a little bit of a lag time for the barn to catch up. Here we can see another new icon. The icon for the field being too far away has actually been updated. So instead of saying barn too far away, it now says farm shed too far away. This doesn't actually reduce the amount of goods that you get from this location. It simply means that it's going to take a significantly longer time for them to go out there. The resources that go into this, as you can see, it's simply logs, straw house, and I've upgraded the wall to wattle. It's just sticks, logs, and straw, basically. I envision that there should be some sort of upgrade to this, as the barn is able to be fully decked out with limestone and plank roofs. I would imagine that sometime in the future, this would probably get an update so that it can also be a stronger, more resilient structure as well. So here we are at my barn. I just moved it down the street, and as you can tell, absolutely nothing has changed inside of here. It's the same storage chest, workbench, threshing, and the kern. Nothing new here. It's just now, when we access it, everybody's simply a barn worker, and anybody that gets assigned to here will just be placed as a barn worker. Here I am at my house, and you'll notice that there are now increased decoration options, as well as a bit more of a streamlined option to it as well. Here we have the windows that we used to have. We now can actually decorate the outside walls of our houses as well. And these do have variants for a solid wall versus a windowed wall. With a windowed wall, you can just have shelves. With a solid wall, you can have a few other options. Here we have the floor. We have all of our rugs. The current sound updates are amazing. Anyway, we can still modify the window with the curtains and wall simultaneously. There's also a ton of new storage options to build. So we go into containers. There's now wicker baskets, a bundle, a sack, a barrel, and even new storage chests. Now, the storage on these isn't quite what you would expect. They're a little on the low side. They're not nearly what you would see in, like, say, the storage capacity of the barn or the storage capacity of the woodshed or something like that. But we'll go through all these one by one, and we'll look at the storage capacity on each one of them. Okay, so just a requirements rundown on all the new storage capacity items. Wicker basket just takes only sticks. The bundle takes some leather and some linen thread. The sack takes leather and some linen fabric. And the barrel and the chest just require planks. We can open these up. We see that the wicker basket only has a storage capacity of 15 kilograms. Not a whole lot in there, but it could be good and useful in a pinch, or more likely people are probably going to be using them more as decoration anyway. We see the bundle is up to 20. Sack is up to 30. The barrel is up to 40. And the chest, complete with its own little opening hinge noise, which is very cool, is up to 50. So the chest is just a copy of whatever storage you would have in your houses. I love these new sounds. Now, as you can see, you cannot, as of yet, place them inside of buildings. They have to go on the flat surface on the ground. Any building that you try to build them inside of, it will clip through the ground and attempt to put itself physically on the actual ground itself. Another fun immersion update that they added is what happens if you're not driving carefully enough and you run into something on your horse. Both you and your horse can get splatted now, and you'll be ejected. It, as of yet, doesn't appear to do any damage to you or your horse, but just something to consider while you're out gallivanting around on a donkey or a horse, to be more careful when you're running into things. Yeah, the updated sounds are amazing. So I'm currently wearing headphones when I record. I play with just the monitor speakers, but the sound on the torches is just very cool. One of the other things that was added into this new update was 20 new locations spawn throughout the map, and this appears to be one of them. So we've seen just generic sacks that we could open, or chests along the side of the road, or the broken down wagons. This is what this is referring to, is 20 more locations of just random lootable objects, and here we see that this is an entire shipment, but we have new icons and new graphic assets for just some of the side of the road or off into the wilderness, things like bandit camps, lootable tipped over wagons, things along the side of the river that we can find. I haven't found all 20 of them, but even if I had, I wouldn't want to go ahead and spoil any of that. Here's another one that I found just up the river as I was riding from one town to another. This one listed as abandoned supplies. It just happens to be one of the abandoned camps that has the empty beer bottles and empty wine bottles and etc. Sorry, pal. So while I'm riding back to my town, there's also a whole host of behind-the-scenes background things that were updated. I had previously posted in comments when I was talking about some of the decorations that you should be careful with the lighting, because the lighting inside of all those houses was causing me to have really massive frame drops right at sunset as it was calculating all the different shadows and all the different, flickering and lighting aspects and everything. A few weeks ago, they had updated what the shadow calculations and some of those things were, and I had a noticeable frame increase. In this update, there was another overhaul of the optimization features, and since it doesn't matter how many lights I have going on, whether it's daylight or darkness, the game has been running absolutely beautifully. Also, console players are going to be thrilled to note that while they already did get a modifiable slider for the building limit, which previously was only on PC, now everybody across the board, PC and console, will have a permanent +5 to the building limit altogether. It seems like they weren't really fully trusting of the hardware and weren't really certain of the requirements both on the PC and on the... What, man? Both on the PC and on the console hardware to be able to handle that many buildings, because in Unreal looks very beautiful, but it does have some pretty serious resource requirements. Another fix applies to a glitch that people were having with the Builder's Hut, and I actually encountered this one myself. So in a previous video, I had been chopping down some trees, and I accidentally fell them into some of my buildings, putting holes in the roof. So me being the lazy individual that I was, I went to the management tab and immediately set my builder to start working on repairs, only to have them not be listed as being damaged. So even though I had pulled up my hammer, looked up, saw the orange or red icons of where the damage was, and I was able to manually repair them myself, the Builder's Hut didn't recognize them as being broken. Previously, the Builder's Hut had only recognized damage that happened between seasons, so at the very start of a new season, when there were damages done to your buildings, your Builder's Hut would be able to take care of them for you without you having to manually do them yourself. However, any damages done to your buildings by trees was not being recognized. That is now fixed. So any damage that I do personally myself, if I chop down a tree and it lands on a house and damages that house, the Builder's Hut will now be able to take care of that issue for me. Another interesting new addition is down here in the miscellaneous tab, we have what's called the compost bin. So what the compost bin does is you open it and you're able to put food inside of it, and it will dramatically increase the rot rate and give you access to fertilizer faster. So it seems to be more of an early game implication item, because a lot of people would, in their first year or so, before they have reliable barn and pigsty and more manure producing ways of generating fertilizer, they would simply go around picking berries, leave them on the floor for a season or two until they rotted, then use that rot to make fertilizer to fertilize their fields. This just gives it a nice cleaner look where you can store items, food items in here, have them rot very quickly, and turn into the rot that you would then use for your fertilizer so you can fertilize your fields in the early game. Okay, so just as a quick recap, a lot of behind the scenes updates for optimization, lighting, etc. There are 20 new locations scattered out throughout the wilderness with the abandoned carts, a few new bandit camps, a few new riverside POIs, a ton of new sounds that just sound absolutely amazing. You can fall off your horse and knock your horse out in the process. There's a fix to the repair shop where it will now repair buildings that were damaged by your cause by dropping trees onto buildings. And ultimately, the biggest one that I feel is the barn has now been split into half, basically. So the threshing and manure handling and flour handling, etc., all the production aspects of the barn are remaining inside the barn, which that barn now no longer has a commute time aspect to their farm workers. And we now have the farm shed, which will still retain the previous commute time aspect of these farmers have to leave their house, physically come here, get dressed, and physically walk out to the fields to continue their work. The other thing to note is that this is the early access version and the development version of the update, which is available on Steam. So even though you'll notice that all of my icons on the right-hand side are applicable to an Xbox controller, I am a PC player. I just play with an Xbox controller. This is my personal preference. So these updates are definitely coming to the general mass of Steam library in their regular normal update, and they will also be slated for console update in the near future. And finally, they fixed my correction of a correction that I had in my previous video of the animals, that the animals will no longer breed, even with a worker, if they don't have the food that they need to sustain themselves. So anyway, let me know down in the comment section if there's anything that you're particularly excited about, any aspect about this that you're really looking forward to trying out for yourself, anything that surprised you about this new update. Also, definitely in the comments, please let me know if there's any other questions you have about this game or something else that you want explained or something that you want shown or demoed so that I can walk through and give aspects about this game, because I absolutely love this game and I love the development team behind it as well. So if there's anything that I can do to help people enjoy this game more and enjoy it to the level that I'm enjoying it at, then by all means, I would love to help and love to contribute to that. Anyway, this is Seven. I hope you found this entertaining. I hope you found this informative. Thanks for watching. Bye.